I am making an update video for my Azamina hecahands with the new cards from Blazing Dominion. A whole lot didn't really change with this deck. It was pretty much just replace 4 cards with the new hecahands cards. But I really like how the deck works, and I feel like the new hecahands cards are kind of I feel like they're underrated. Yeah, I think that's the right word. And I think hecahands is a lot better than people think it is. It just takes the right person to be using it, and overall, though, I really think the deck is really fun to play. And starting off with the monsters, which I believe, at least for the main deck, everything is illusion except for 3 copies of one monster. But starting off with the monsters, I play 3 copies of Nightmare Apprentice. Let me try to fix this a little bit so it's more straight. There we go. Nightmare Apprentice has the effect of you can discard a card from your hand, especially summon it from your hand. And then on summon, it will let you add any illusion monster from your deck to your hand. And then all the illusion monsters, at least in the main deck, share the effect of when they battle, then neither monster can be destroyed in that battle. Then next, I play 3 copies of the new hecahands Monkibule. I think that's how it's pronounced. Monkibule. It's either Monkibule. But anyway, it has the effect that you can only use each of the following effects of it once per turn. Where you can reveal this card in your hand to fusion summon a hecahands fusion monster from your extra deck using monsters from your hand or field, including itself. And an illusion fusion monster, and then it has the final effect of if an illusion fusion monster is sent from your to your graveyard while this card is in your graveyard, except during the damage step, then you can add this card back to your hand. So it's like that. It's technically a polymerization that will recycle itself, or not will recycle itself, but can, I should say. Next, I play 3 copies of Ibtel. Hecahands Ibtel has the effect of you can reveal this card in your hand, shuffle it back to the deck, summon a hecahands monster from your deck, and then if this card is sent to the graveyard, then you can special summon a hecahands monster from your graveyard. Next, I play 3 copies of hecahands Yodel. Yodel does the same thing as Ibtel, but instead it adds a spell or trap to your hand. And then if it's sent to the graveyard, you can set a hecahands spell or trap. That's also what it searches, in case someone was thinking, oh, it just lets you add a spell or trap. And then, I guess because I feel like I forgot to mention it, almost every card in this deck is a hard once per turn. Next, I play 2 copies of hecahands Gygus. Hecahands Gygus, like the other 2 level 7s, share the effect of if a card is added from your opponent's deck to their hand, except during the draw phase and damage step, then you can special summon this card from your hand. And then Gygus is able to execute the top 3 cards of your opponent's deck and summon a revealed monster to your field. And any remaining cards are shuffled back into the deck. Next, I play 3 copies of Godos. Godos is surprisingly considered a hand trap, as it has the during your opponent's main phase quick effect, target a monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to your field, but banish it when it leaves the graveyard, or when it leaves the field. So I'm just going to say that again. It lets you target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, summon it to your field, but when that monster leaves the field, it is removed from play. Which I did find out, if you steal a Ghost Ogre off of Godos' effect, you cannot activate the Ghost Ogre's effect, as Ghost Ogre cannot be sent to the graveyard. And then lastly, I play the 1 copy of hecahands Brius. I really like hecahands Brius because even if its effect fails, you at least have some kind of hand knowledge. Where this card has the main phase of your main phase effect of being able to look at your opponent's hand, Look at one random card in your opponent's hand, and if it's a monster, you can summon it to your field. That's pretty much it. And then, lastly, for the monsters, I play 3 copies of Diabellstar the Black Witch. This card has the effect of you can special summon this card from your hand by sending 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard. And then you can only special summon Diabellstar once per turn this way. When summoned, you can set a Sinful Spoils spell or trap from your deck. And then I believe there's another card. During your opponent's turn, if this card is sent from its owner's field or hand or field to the graveyard, you can send 1 card from your hand or field to the graveyard, and if you do, special summon this card. Then next, for these spells, I play 1 copy of Called by the Grave. This card just lets you target a monster in your opponent's graveyard, banish it, and then any monster effects, monsters with the same original name have their effects negated until the end of the turn. Next, I play 1 copy of Foolish Burial. As Foolish Burials usually will send either Ibtel or Yodel, depending on what you need back. Like if there's a monster in your graveyard you need, you can send Foolish Burial. This will let you send Ibtel to then be able to special summon back a monster. And then same thing with Yodel if you need a spell or trap back. Honestly, Foolish Burial can probably be taken out, but I actually kind of like it as I've been able to take hands that are usually bad and then just play around with it. Next, I play 1 copy of the Hollowed Azamina. This card lets you reveal an Azamina fusion monster from your extra deck, and for every 4 levels it has, round it down, so if it's level 6 you send 1, if it's level 8 you send 2. Send 1 Sinful Spoils card from your hand and or field to the graveyard. If face down, reveal it. And then special summon that revealed monster. This is treated as a fusion summon. And then if this card is in the graveyard, you can target 1 Azamina monster you control, or in your graveyard, shuffle it into the deck, and if you do, add this card back to your hand. You can only use each effect of the Hollowed Azamina, or correction, you can only use this effect of the Hollowed Azamina once per turn. So you can activate it and sending things as many times as you want, but you can only return it from your graveyard to your hand once per turn. Next, I play 2 copies of Hecahands Tartarus. Hecahands Tartarus has has 2 effects. I've only ever used its fusion summoning effect, but it has the effect if you control a Hecahands monster, target a spell or trap your opponent controls and return it to the hand. Or you can fusion summon a Hecahands fusion monster from your extra deck by banishing materials from your field and graveyard. And then if you can also use monsters you control that your opponent owns as if they were Hecahands. And then next, and then you can only use each effect of Hecahands Tartarus once per turn. So if you have both of them, you can use both the effects in 1 turn. If you only have 1, then ordinarily you'll want to use the fusion effect. Then next, I play 3 copies of Nightmare Hands, which I feel like was made specifically for Hecahands. It lets you send an illusion monster from your deck to the graveyard, and then that's its first effect. That's its activation effect. Just lets you foolish an illusion monster. And I do like it's a quick effect. It's a quick play spell for that. And then during your main phase, if you control a level 5 or higher illusion monster, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target a monster your opponent controls, or target a monster your opponent. You target 1 monster in your opponent's graveyard and special summon it to your field, but banish it during the end phase of the next turn. The main thing I like about this deck is that when it steals an opponent's monster, it doesn't negate their effects, which I absolutely love that. Next, I play 3 copies of the Hidden Hecahands. This card has the effect that when you activate this card, you can also send 1 other card you control to the graveyard to then be able to add a Hecahands monster from your deck to your hand. And then if you sent another card on activation, you can also set a Hecahands spell or trap from your deck. And then you can banish this card from your graveyard to then make your opponent draw 1 card and then discard 1 card. And you can use each effect of the Hidden Hecahands once per turn. This card is usually how you're able to summon the level 7 Hecahands from your hand if you really need to summon them. But ordinarily, this card will just sit in your graveyard as you really don't want to force your opponent to draw a card, even if they have to discard. Next, I play 3 copies of Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils. This card will let you add a Diabellstar monster from your deck or graveyard to your hand, and then during your main phase, you can banish this card from your graveyard, target one of your Sinful Spoil spells or traps that's banished or in your graveyard, except for another Wanted, Seeker of Sinful Spoils, place on the bottom of the deck, then draw 1 card. You'll use each effect of Wanted once per turn. Then lastly for the spells, I play 3 copies of Deception of the Sinful Spoils. This card lets you tribute 1 monster from your hand or field, and then add an Azamina card from your deck to your hand. And then if a monster is sent from your opponent's or is sent to your opponent's graveyard, and you control an Azamina monster, except during the damage step, but then let's see, where was I? I forgot what it was. You can make your opponent's monsters, or you can make your opponent lose 1,500 life points, and then you gain 1,500 life points. During the end phase, if this card is in the graveyard because it was sent there that turn from the spell trap zone, then you can set it, and you'll use each effect of Deception of the Sinful Spoils once per turn. Which the way that this with Hollowed Azamina usually works is you'll activate Wanted, summon Diabellstar. Diabellstar will set Deception. Deception will activate tributing the Diabellstar to get the Hollowed Azamina. The Hollowed Azamina will activate sending Deception after you reveal Illa Sylvia. And then you'll summon the Illa Sylvia. And then during the end phase, the Deception will set itself because it was sent there that turn. And then, should you have to use the Illa Sylvia at some point during your turn, then you can also return it to the extra deck in order to return the Hollowed Azamina to your hand, which you could then use to resummon the Illa Sylvia. Now for the traps, I play 1 copy of Yod All Hecahands. This card can only be activated while you control a Hecahands monster, but when your opponent activates a spell or trap card, negate the activation, and if you do, destroy that card. Then if you destroy the card, you can then have the optional effect of setting it to your field. I also play 1 copy of Yod All Hecahands, which does the exact same thing as... Yod All Hecahands does the thing I described. Ibal does this opposite, but with monsters. So now I feel a little silly because I described Yod All Hecahands with Ibal Hecahands effect. This one's the monster negate. That will negates the monster effect, destroys it, and then you can summon it to your field. Yod All is the one that negates spells and traps, and you has the option of setting to your field. Next, I play 2 copies of Hecahands Bait. Hecahands Bait I'm trying 2 of, then I'm probably going to take 1 out of the deck entirely. But Hecahands Bait has the effect of you contribute 1 Hecahands monster, or monster you control that is owned by your opponent. Take control of 1 monster your opponent controls. It's a non-target permanent change of heart. And I absolutely love it for that. And you only use this effect of Hecahands Bait once per turn. Then once per turn during your end phase, send 1 card you control to the graveyard. Which is... Honestly, that's... The only downside is that during your end phase you have to get rid of a card. But... For a non-targeting change of heart that your opponent doesn't get back, I feel like it's probably worth it. But like I said, I probably want to take 1 of the baits out, so it's a 1 of each trap. As each one is very searchable off of 1 of the extra deck monsters, which I feel like is actually one of the better monsters in the deck. Moving on to the extra deck. I had to think about it because I keep trying to call the extra deck the side deck. I play 1 copy of Azamina Illa Sylvia. The Azamina fusion monsters are the illusions in this deck that can destroy things in battle, as they do not have, if this card battles, then neither monster can be destroyed by that battle. But Illa Sylvia, it has the effect when your opponent activates a card or effect, you contribute this card to negate the effect. And then if it's destroyed by battle or card effect, you can add a Sinful Spoils trap from your deck to your hand, which I don't play Sinful Spoil traps, so there's that. The next, I play one copy of Azamina Murcielago. Murcielago has the effect of monsters your opponent controls lose 500 attack and defense for each Azamina monster you control. And you only use the following effect once per turn. With this card's fusion summon, you can add an Azamina or Sinful Spoil card from your deck to your hand. And if this card is destroyed by battle or card effect, then you can add one Sinful Spoil spell from your deck to your hand. Next, I play one copy of Azamina Soul. One copy of Azamina Soul Erisichthon. Or Erisichthon. Erisichthon has the effect of, if this card is fusion summoned, you can target one card in the field, send it to the graveyard. During your standby phase, you can target one Azamina or Sinful Spoil card in your graveyard and add it to your hand. And you'll use each effective Azamina Soul Erisichthon once per turn. If I'm butchering this card's name, then comment in the comments how its name is supposed to be pronounced. And because since I always do read the comments, even ones I kind of don't like, which I remember for the longest time it was just like, seemed like it was bot comments where it's just links to other things. Next, I play one copy of Azamina Moa Regina. Moa Regina has the effect you can target one illusion monster in your graveyard except for another of itself and special summon it. When an Azamina or Sinful Spoils card or effect is activated except for another Moa Regina, in this quick effect you can target up to 2 cards on the field and destroy them. And you can only use each effect of Moa Regina once per turn. Next, I play 3 copies of the new hecahands Daedalus. Hecahands Daedalus has the once per turn effect to target a monster your opponent controls. Take control of it. Your opponent it's a change again. It's a change of heart that your opponent doesn't get back. And then Daedalus also has the effect of your hecahands fusion monsters can attack your opponent directly. The card's not as good as I originally thought it was because I didn't read the word fusion, so I just thought your hecahands monsters can attack your opponent directly. But I really like this card, because it makes all the hecahands fusion monsters essentially become what I think is one of the funniest or most fun archetypes to play, even if they aren't very good at the time of this recording, which is Toons, as they're able to just attack directly. But I really like how this card turns hecahands into a pseudo-Toon archetype, which I think is really fun. Next, I play 3 copies of hecahands Jowza. Hecahands Jowza has the effect of must first either be fusion summoned or special summoned from the extra deck by attributing an illusion monster and a monster you control that is owned by your opponent. And then Jowza's last effect is once per turn, it can add a hecahands card from your graveyard or deck to your hand. Then to finish off the fusions, I play 2 copies of hecahands Xeno. hecahands Xeno has the effect of, during the main phase, quick effect, you can look at 2 random cards in your opponent's extra deck and summon one of them. Then, if hecahands Xeno is destroyed by an opponent's card effect, then you can non-target steal as many of your opponent's monsters as you'd like. I really like this card. I really like its effects, but I've never been able to trigger its last effect because my opponent has... It's either stolen too much from my opponent, or my opponent will just kaiju's it when it gets its effects and kills it in battle. But either way, I've never been able to resolve the Xeno steal things. I do know, though, that there was one time I would have been able to, but it was, or not only did I not get to activate it, my opponent also showed that if they Because my opponent at one point was randomly playing Remove Brainwashing for hecahands. As Remove Brainwashing just makes so that monsters on the field return to the control of the player who owns them. So hecahands' whole thing is stealing, and Remove Brainwashing just takes that away. Then for the extra deck, I play one copy of Dampier Vampire Sheridan and one copy of the Zombie Vampire. These two both share the effect of if you control a monster that your opponent owns that has a level, you can treat it as the level of that the Xyz monster requires. So Sheridan will let you treat them as level 6, and Zombie Vampire will let you treat them as level 8. But Sheridan has the effect of... where was it? Once per turn, detach material from this card, then target one card your opponent controls, and send it to the graveyard. And if a monster card is sent to the graveyard with this card's effect, or a monster is destroyed by battle and sent to your opponent's graveyard, you can detach a material from this card, special summon one of those monsters to your field in defense position. And then the Zombie Vampire has the effect that it and monsters you control that are summoned from the graveyard cannot be targeted by your opponent's card effects. Then once per turn, you can activate the Zombie Vampire's effect, detach a material. Both players send the top 4 cards of the deck to the graveyard, and you can summon one of those monsters. And then lastly, for the extra deck, I play one copy of Superstar Slayer Typhon Sky Crisis. This monster has the effect of during the turn or the turn after your opponent has special summoned 2 or more monsters from the extra deck. You can also execute summon this card using the strongest monster on your field, your choice of Tide. And if you do, you cannot normal or special summon monsters for the rest of this turn. And then while it's execute summon monsters on the field, neither player can activate the effects of monsters with 3,000 or more attack. Once per turn, you can detach a material from this card, target one card on the field, and return it to the hand. And that is it for my Azamina hecahands deck profile. If you have any ideas of what I can do to improve the deck, any ideas for decks like to see made in the future, or decks like to see face each other, feel free to comment down below. I always read the comments, and I always try any suggestions. And thank you so much for watching if you're still here.